Finally broke down and got Netflix now that the last video store in Manhattan, at least that I'm aware of, closed.
Yeah.
So maybe I can totally do stuff like watch a season of Wire over a weekend.
There's no more movie rentals.
Incredible, because you go to L.A. and there's still tons of video stores.
I know.
I was in Mexico recently. There's Blockbusters and stuff. You can rent videos. And you know, the fun thing about going to a video store is you browse. When you go online, they say, here's what everybody else is watching.
Yes, I know.
I'll go run the other way. I've never seen Titanic.
Welcome back to Craft Truck, Through the Lens. You know, there are some cinematographers who are artistes with a capital E and a curly mustache, and then there are others that just get in there with a hammer and nails and a camera and get it done, and on top of that are never stopping, never cease to push the boundaries of the project that they're working on. We're really lucky to be sitting with a man who not only has a practical, pragmatic, and real approach to what he does, but also is one of the best visionaries of how to make any project he's working on look unique, stylish, and beautiful. Mr. Frankie DeMarco.
Thanks.
What did you do before you were deeping? Were you gripping electric?
Yeah, when I in Baltimore, you can wear many hats. I remember, like, in '84, I worked, you know, there's a year, it's 365 days. I worked 300 days because I would grip one day, I would gaff another day, I would AC another day, maybe I could operate on something.
You worked the whole year?
I worked for like 300 days out of 365 one year. So
really?
But you can wear a lot of hats. Baltimore kind of became, you know, a little, you know, place to shoot du jour in the early, mid-'80s.
It did. That's why.
Because it was kind of like, yeah, it sort of still had like a depressed edge, but they had built hotels in the Inner Harbor Place and all that. I remember they did a movie called Liberty, which was about the guy who built the Statue of Liberty, and they came to Baltimore, and I had been doing, like I said, grip, gaff, electric, whatever, and they needed the guy who was the clapper guy. He was a real cameraman, you know. I mean, he would AC, but he was a real cameraman. Richard Chisholm was a great documentary cameraman, still in Baltimore. And he directs, too, documentary stuff. He just didn't like doing slates and all that. He quit and called me up and said, do you want to go do, like, yeah, sure, a movie with Hollywood guys and all that. So I knew where to put the slate. They didn't have to, like, say, oh, they had to do it. I could put the slate right where it needed to be. I mean, it's the simplest thing, but I swear to God, people don't know how to slate.
Do it for,
well, you just like sight through the. If you just sight through the sticks, plus you get your face on there. That way they remember you in post. I remember doing a documentary with Audrey Hepburn.
That guy was such a good slate.
We went all over the world with Audrey Hepburn, and I was the second AC in 1990. And like they never had to like do the up down and like change their frame.
Which Audrey Hepburn film?
It was a movie called it was a documentary about it was called Gardens of the World with Audrey Hepburn. It was a PBS thing.
Wow.
So we traveled all over the world. She's a garden buff, you know. She was a real stickler for facts, and we had shaky research on a lot of the plant and flower information. So at night when she'd be calling the world, if we're in Tokyo, she'd be on the phone back to, you know, Switzerland talking about some flower and making sure that whatever they wrote for her is true.
Correct.
And correct, you know.
But you've already, you know, very kind of painted us a bit of a picture with the fact that, you know, you would do anything and everything, and I'll try anything, I'll do anything, and I'm going to go on a limb and guess that was your approach to your photography too. You try anything. Yeah,
I'm one of my favorite things to say. I mean, sometimes I'll work with a gaffer and I'll say, let's do this or that, and they go, oh no, if you do that, then this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I'm like, I know, but let's try. You know,
Call me crazy.
We'll fail. Yeah, I say we'll fail. Let's fail. I'm willing to fail. Let's take a chance and look at them. I always sort of joke that like we'll fail our way to success because that's. And I come from my dad was an inventor, and like he has patents and stuff.
Really?
So I come from like this sort of trial and error thing, and I almost became a chemist. And you do experiments, and you do 10,000 failures to have the one success. So you essentially you fail your way to success. That's how invent something. You build something. It's wrong. But it's a good idea, and you build it again, and it's getting better, and then but it falls apart. It doesn't mate, so you like have to like get somebody else to come in and help. And you fail, and you fail, and fail, but you have a good idea, and then you succeed. You can't do that on a set, sit there and fail 1,000 times. You have to be like in like one failure mode. You can fail once, 1.5 times, and then get it right. That's what you do, you know, with lighting and the dolly move and all that. You get it, and then you got to like tweak, and then there's something behind you, and you got to fix that. And that C-stand leg's in the way, that flag's over there, and I'm seeing off into the trees over there, and I don't want to see it. And you sort of have to continually,
Right.
you know, shave it down. It's a form of like, there's an expression, something about like destructive, there's 3D, there's this new way of like making something, 3D printing.
Oh, 3D printing.
It's called constructive building.
Sure.
Whereas if you take a chunk of metal, if I wanted to make this with a milling and lathing, that's a destructive technique. Where you take away, you destroy to end up with something.
It's basically sculpting.
Where you're cutting away. Yeah. Whereas with 3D, you build up, so it's constructive. I look at it like inventing lighting on the set is a sort of, it's both. You build it and you destroy it. You know, it's sort of like, so it's a dynamic thing. It's a hybrid of both. Because you construct something, and then you have to destroy a few things, and then so you're constructing. You're doing both.
We talk a lot about lighting. Let's just talk for a second about lensing and composition. You know, margin call. Let's take that. The shot that jumped out to me, not that. Well, there's a few things. One was these beautiful either pans or tilts or still shots of the city and how you captured New York.
Right.
And I'm assuming on that budget with that crew, that was you.
JC was too busy with like 12 actors. 12 needy actors.
There were several conference room scenes, whether it was Kevin Spacey, you know, trying to rally the troops, or whether it was the series of board meetings leading up to the arrival of Jeremy Irons to explain everything again.
So, what you're telling me is that the music is about to stop, and we're going to be left holding the biggest bag of odorous excrement ever assembled in the history of capitalism.
But the close-up on Quinto, when he realizes, and I think there was some earbuds.
Oh yeah, he's at the computer.
Sort of moves over.
I think that's good that you bring that. Do you like that shot of Quinto having the sort of epiphany of like, oh my God, this is a meltdown. This is a financial meltdown of cataclysmic proportions. Because that shot was a shot I did in Hedwig. And so there was a shot. There's a shot in Hedwig where Hedwig's partner, she's in a motel room full of wigs, and they're all Hedwig's wigs, and she picks one up, and it's like obviously her favorite wig, and she puts it on, and she has like this, you know, moment. And I remember I had a great operator. He read the script. He understood the undertone and the nuance of each scene. He really tuned in. That's what I like. He said, what if once we land, then we do like this, change the perspective, so the perspective is changing in the background. We do a thing like that. So let's try it. Sounds good to me. And we did it, and it really worked. And we had to fine tune it, but we did a few takes, and it was beautiful. And that is a movie that like really anchors this relatively silent character. It really anchors for the rest of the movie her anger, her frustration. So we fast forward to 10 years to Margin Call, and there's a scene where Zach realizes, oh my God, this is going to be like, this is going to just collapse the world economy. Then we did the same thing. We changed that perspective. But anyway, I stole a shot I'd done, 10 years earlier, saying, but it was the right thing because Zach's character is going through a realization. He's understanding. He grasps. And then there's an epiphany, and then we use that same sort of gear change thing. And it's a great trick. I haven't really seen that anywhere, so I can say that's patented from my book. Thank you to my guy Doug in Toronto, who
it's a great shot.
Helped to invent that.
It's a phenomenal moment. A few shots after that,
right?
Zachary Quinto is now showing what he has to. I think it's Paul
Bettany and Penn Badgley. Yeah.
Okay. And you have this wide shot, dolly shot.
That's right. Yeah.
Pointing at the screen, looking at it. The best part about this movie, for me, is that it's like in 90% of stories that involve anything to do with a computer, at some point they will either cut to the perspective of the screen, looking at the screen, or the screen looking at the person, or a superimposition of the screen in front of the person's
face.
Which
we did with Spacey and Bettany, and another thing, but it did in a cool way where they were in a glass room.
Right.
But it's a different idea.
But this movie, you never, the whole point is that it's a MacGuffin.
Right. I think, JC said he didn't want to have And there's a trailer, there's like a Czechoslovakian trailer that I found on the website before there was an official trailer. I just wanted to get something up on my website. And they mentioned like 7 trillion, they mentioned all these numbers, and so JC had shot stuff, then he realized, if I start saying numbers, you know, but if people watch this movie a few years from now, 1 trillion will seem like 1 million. So that was a really prescient choice on JC's he shot it 2 ways. He shot it with information, he shot it without exact information, knowing that he could make that choice in the editing room, which is really great. As a director, he has a wonderful sort of sense of like what you need in the editing room, and you need options. It's something I like to work with too, is we shoot something and I often say, look, we can grab an extra shot here, tight it closer, with something else here, it's free, I'm lit, you'll have it in the editing room. No, I'll never use it. I said, I know you'll never use that to the director, but if we shoot it now, you can never use it in the editing room.
Yes, exactly, yes.
And if you're up against it, you might realize, wait, we shot that extra thing, maybe we could use that. But if you don't have
it's
it...
a huge lesson. It's
Yeah.
a huge lesson that every
Yeah.
director has to learn,
Yeah.
usually the hard way, which is if you have it, you can choose not to use it.
Yeah, you can choose not
but
to
if
use
you don't
it.
have it, you
Yeah.
can't get it back.
Yeah, if we can get it, especially most of the movies I've worked on, we've not had an abundance of time. We worked on Margin Call, we had a 17-day shooting schedule, and then we shot for another day later on. Once it was edited, we got some more money, and we shot some extra stuff and reshot some stuff. But that movie was shot in 17 days, so there's no time to, you know, discuss stuff. And the fun thing about that job, it was like, you know, you have the other jobs, like the jazz musicians, they're all playing at Carnegie Hall and the Symphony, and then they all run downtown to the Village Vanguard and go in the base, and they jam, and they bring all their knowledge, and somebody says, okay, we're going to do this song in your own sweet way. And they just start playing, using their experience. And like, the great thing about Margin Call was that JCI had all of 2 weeks, and he was so busy casting that we didn't have that much time. He showed me lookbooks, he showed me his ideas, and it was sort of up to me to try and think what he would want, and then oftentimes, if he couldn't articulate it, I could just show it, and 99% of the time he liked what we saw. Also, the location told us how to shoot. We were in a big fishbowl with this great Manhattan outside of us, and if you just moved, if you stand there like this,
Yep.
you're looking at something, if you just go like this a little bit, all of Manhattan goes like this.
Right.
It's like a lever. If you move this little bit here, the whole background goes big.
There are some interesting things that take place outside of the fishbowl in Margin Call. There's the scene between Paul Bettany and
Stan.
Gucci.
Yeah, that's fun.
yeah.
I'll tell you my favorite thing. There was
Very
that
nice
movie.
sunlit.
That was
morning,
nice. They were on a stoop.
Yeah.
My favorite thing in there, again, let's talk about composition. To me, composition is more intuitive. I think some people are very like, think about composition. They design something very rigidly, like with a certain rigor.
Yep.
They design a shot, and they design the compositions.
Right.
And I love that. I love movies like that. I find I like to go in, especially working with a director or whatever, and have something we're trying to go for. But I just find, especially working on a practical location, or a real location, things present themselves to you, and it's free, and it's like a gift. Bettany and Penn Badgley are waiting for their car
Yes.
to come down in
Yeah.
this parking lot. And it was we were like 7 floors under one Penn Plaza, like 8th Street and 34th Street. Simon Baker shows up just before the car is delivered, and you know, they have this interaction. I said, why don't we put like Penn like right up in the lens? And then there's Paul in the middle ground, and then there's this background where we're waiting for a car. We can create like this really nice depth and tension. And that was not something that I had any forethought or anything. It was there. I saw it. I see that. I like that. I see a moment and say, what if we do this? I think this could really make this much better. So it's like invented on the spot. I think it's more jazzy, and I think that's part of what I liked. It's more jazzy, where you sort of invent as you're going. I like that kind of thing. It's not for every movie, and not for every scene, but I think it's enjoyable. And JC is very jazzy, and John Mitchell is very jazzy, where we have good, strong ideas, we've thought it out, but we're very open to innovation in the middle of a shot, or in the middle, like on a next take, what if we do this? They're very open. They don't get derailed. No, I can't. They're like, yes, let's try it. They're very open to experimentation, which is a great way to work.
Let's go back to Hedwig.
Yeah.
Just because it is a gorgeous looking movie and a very different looking movie from most movies. There's one shot in Hedwig that to me is the very definition of using the camera, the location, and the story all at the same time. Can you guess what shot I'm thinking about?
I don't know. I think it was a pile of tires. I don't know. What's
the pile of tires is great. No,
that was like invented on
what I'm thinking about is Through the Fishbowl.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because it's just like, this is where this guy is playing.
Through the salad.
There's the salad and
through the salad, the dandruff
and,
thing, yeah. John is very aware of like the comedy of structure as well. You can use a structure to like have a joke.
Well, that was why I remember the shot so much, is because I laughed out loud at the shot. It had nothing to do. All Hedwig had to do was just be talking and performing or doing anything.
Right.
The point is that it opens into the scene.
Yeah,
and
we're looking through
the
the spit shield on the salad. One of my favorites in that movie is there's a mobile home scene where Hedwig lives in a mobile home, and then some amazing thing happens, and then everything goes crazy. And like that was another one where we used, the location of something. Therese, the production designer, myself, and John were sitting going through the script. We went page by page for a year. And there's a scene, the way as John had written it, where they're inside the RV, and then they go outside onto the lawn, and they all start playing, and it's a wonderful thing. And I said, it's nice, and the music is wonderful, but to me, it's not as visually as exciting as it maybe could be. Could we do something spectacular, like when the band does come in, could we cut to the outside, and could like the roof somehow fall away and all the sides fold down, and it's this giant stage, and they're going crazy and with this music? And John's like, yes, I love that. And I look over at Therese, this production, and I say, guys, this is not that kind of, we don't have the budget for that. I can't blow off a top wall and have all the walls. There's no money and no time. I said, can you do like the long end? Can you do the long end to come down? She's like, yeah, I could do the long end, yeah. I said, well, if we do the long end, then it's sort of a stage, so like they could leave, like rush the stage, and with instruments and all, that could be fun. And then John says, stage, that's good, so it's sort of a stage, so could we put like lights on this? I said, yeah, we'll put footlights, we could put footlights. And Therese's like, oh, I got the perfect. Suddenly, like, now we have that, and then you flash forward, that's the movie, that's what we have, and it's a great, exciting moment.
Becomes possible. There's so many moments where filmmaker, something is suggested outside of the original vision, and people go, that's all we're doing here. Yeah. And then it just takes, but it sounds to me like in that situation, you were the one to really shepherd the idea forward and say, well, let's just see what we can do.
I mean, that was just, there are many, many times when I'm working with directors, I say, hey, how about if we do this, and let's shot down. 8 times out of 10 it's shot down. But it's great. It's a pleasure. It's a privilege to work with directors who have the open mind, where like they're willing to field really strong suggestions that are like game changers in a lot of ways. But if they have the vision, they know.
So let's talk a little bit about All Is Lost.
Right.
Okay. So this film has a screenplay. One of the most compelling screenplays, I think, out there in the marketplace that was
all 34 pages of
34
it.
pages. 34 pages. Absolutely gripping from the first page to the last page. Yeah. And this is like a story that is told, I would say pretty much entirely, with the exception of a little thing here and a little thing there, through images.
Right. It's a silent movie, and it's something I think J.C., the director, we had talked about. There's no, I think he wrote a second script that actually has 4 pages of dialogue or narration or something in it, but the one that he presented to anybody who was investing or interested, studios or whatever, it's very dependent on Redford to act what's in his head. And the brilliant thing about Robert Redford, besides the fact that he's like a very handsome bastard still, is that, and he's a lovely guy, and he gave me this free shirt, is that he can project through his face what's in his mind, which I think is a fascinating, rare talent. I think guys like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin could do it. Keaton would do nothing, and yet you still knew what he was thinking. I think Bob, in the whole movie, he's constantly fixing and figuring and planning and thinking. He's got to solve. He goes from one problem to another, and he's solving, and you see, and he's a brilliant, thinker actor. I think Pacino is like that. Jeremy Irons is like that. You could see them thinking. Yep. And I think Robert Redford is like that. You could see him think. He's constantly thinking, devising. He's constantly confronted with problems that are seemingly insurmountable sometime, and there's no dialogue. He's not sitting there talking to Wilson. Well, Wilson, today I got to fix this, which was a great device for Hanks and Robert Zemeckis to use, and I had suggested to JC, why don't we he gets rid of a lot of stuff, he throws stuff overboard. I said, why don't we have like a soccer ball or something he picks up, and it's a Wilson brand. He like picks it up and looks at it and throws that overboard too, and continue with the movie. It would have been a funny bit, but we didn't go with that. But anyway, that's one of the 8 that didn't make the. It would have been good for a laugh, because I think we would have gotten a lot of laughs.
Yeah, yeah.
But I said, shoot it, throw away. And he's like, no, we're not going to do that. The thing I liked about All Is Lost, it's an old time movie too, because we had these water stages and this amazing marine crew. We had frogmen and amazing underwater cinematographer too that we worked with, and just the sheer physical nature of what we were doing in a pretty low budget movie. I think it was like a $10 million movie. We took 40-foot, yachts, sailboats, and could lift them up and put them in this stage here inside, and pick them up and move them out to this giant stage outside where they shot Titanic and everything. And it was just the sheer massiveness of what we were doing on this very sort of modest budget was impressive. It was very old-fashioned with fans and wave-making machines. It was very analog, but then we had green screens and stuff too, so it was very digital, and we shot on digital. So it was like this sort of nice mix of old-fashioned movie making and new digital, trickery.
What did you do about being in such a confined space when we're in the cabin of the boat?
There was only room for one camera, generally. I think once or twice we got 2 cameras in there, but it was most of the time we could only fit 1 camera in there. Handheld with a prime lens, with a small lens, not a zoom. Or I did have actually a small zoom I could use as well. But anyway, it was confining, but the whole idea is it's a cabin of a sailboat, so you got that feeling, We used wider lenses, which made sense. They didn't make the boat look huge inside. The wide lens just allowed us to work and see Bob. But I mean, it was interesting because he would like to have to squeeze by the camera sometimes, and I don't know, somehow it worked. We could just get skinny, and he would
get skinny.
And he could just skinny by, or I could like skinny up or whatever. And the focus puller's on a remote, so he wasn't in the way. But yeah, it was pretty confining, and you get wet and damp in the scenes where the boat is filling up with water, so we're all sloshing around in wetsuits or bathing suits, and it was pretty, physical thing. The water was warmed up. Bob's 76 years old. We wanted to freeze him, and we wanted to be able to do as many takes as he could do, So we would warm the water, and it was pretty amazing. These guys could like fill the boat and flush it out, fill the interior of the boat, flush it out, like in a matter of minutes. It was pretty impressive, that the whole marine crew, Jimmy and Rick and those guys, a pretty amazing bunch.
I mean, I don't know how much effects were in your previous movies. Obviously, some, and you've done commercials, but was this at all like? Was there a learning curve to work on something? No,
not really. No, I mean, the stuff we did was green screen, where they were going to replace stuff. So we'd actually film something like outside, and we could see the horizon line, and Bob would say, "No, we'll just take that and just mend that so we don't see the horizon line, or the waves breaking in the rocks on the seaweed here that we can see. We'll just give me enough this where I can grab a piece and paint it over that or whatever." So that wasn't a big problem. I think the biggest problem was having enough green screen to fill the scene. We'd shoot stuff in the cabin of the boat that we could see out the companionway, out to the outside of the boat. And I had 25 feet of green screen, but from this low attack, this angle, then I'm seeing into the rafters above, and we don't have enough green screen. So we had to like build like big patches of green screen. Pat O'Mara, my amazing key grip, could like fly stuff to like, it was just, ideally, had we had a ton of money, we just would have built a cube of green and worked inside of it, but we didn't have that available to us financially. So we had to patch stuff, and it was, but there wasn't much of a learning curve there, really. As far as underwater work was a new thing to me. We had Pete Zuccarini, who's a great underwater DP. He's done a lot of movies, Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that.
Light is funky underwater.
Yeah, we had, but most of the time we weren't shooting at night, but there is like the final scene of the movie where it is a nighttime scene.
Yep.
And there was, but I did a lot of research. That's where I did learn how to light underwater for nighttime lighting. Is tricky. Light bends, light does a whole nother, it doesn't go very far because It's like, here, look, light travels in this room as far as you can see. If you add smoke, then you can't see back there, right? Well, water is somewhere between air and smoke. It has density, it has particulate matter in it. The light doesn't travel as far, it diffuses more quickly. So we did have to learn a few things. But it was not that hard to learn. It's like anything. You have to do some homework and you learn it.
Fabulous. Mr. Frankie DeMarco.
All right, cool.
Thank
Cheers.
you for joining
bet.
us.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been great
Fun.
to have you.